What if I told you this? Right now, as you watch this video, you're displaying the exact same behavior that would have gotten you killed 500 years ago. You're questioning. You're curious. You're thinking for yourself. And in 1492 Spain, that was a death sentence. Picture this. You wake up in a windowless stone cell. The air reeks of human waste and terror. Iron shackles bite into your wrists. But here's what will really chill you. You have no idea what you did wrong. Because in the Spanish Inquisition, thinking differently wasn't just dangerous. It was heresy. And heresy meant one thing: the flames. Before we step into the nightmare that consumed the civilization, ask yourself this. What happens when ordinary people are dragged into the darkest corners of history? When survival means blood on your hands, and every decision could be your last. This isn't a lesson. This is a descent into chaos, betrayal, and horror so real they scar generations. What you're about to see isn't just history. It's a psychological thriller that actually happened. So if you're ready to witness the past the way they lived it, hit subscribe and step into the story. Still here? Good, because this gets dark, really dark. Look around your room. See that neighbor across the street? That co-worker who annoys you? Your brother-in-law who argues politics at dinner? Now imagine this. Tomorrow morning, any one of them could point at you and whisper 3 words. They're not faithful. And by evening, you'd be chained in a dungeon, waiting for men in black robes to decide whether you live or die. That was life in Spain for over 300 years. This isn't a fairy tale. It happened to real people. People who woke up, kissed their family goodbye, and never saw them again. The Inquisition wasn't just an institution. It was a machine. A perfectly designed machine, built to turn ordinary people into weapons of terror. And the scariest part? It worked. So well, that we're still using the same playbook today. Let me tell you about the real genius of the Inquisition. It wasn't the torture devices, though they had plenty. It wasn't even the executions. It was the theater. Picture this scene. Seville, 1481. The first auto-da-fe, act of faith. But this isn't happening in some hidden dungeon. It's happening in the town square, in front of thousands. Entire families pack picnic lunches. Children sit on their fathers' shoulders for a better view. The prisoners are marched out. Yellow robes painted with flames and demons. The San Benito. Some will be reconciled. Others will be relaxed to the secular arm. Relaxed was their euphemism for burned alive. And here's the psychological terror. Mercy was always possible, right up until the flames touched your feet. All you had to do was confess. Name names. Betray someone you loved. Let me tell you about a case that will haunt you. The Holy Child of LaGuardia, 1490. Benito Garcia, a shepherd, poor, illiterate, never traveled more than a few miles from his village. And yet, the Inquisition accused him of the most elaborate conspiracy in Spanish history. They said he and others kidnapped a Christian child, crucified him, ripped out his heart, used his blood in a ritual to destroy all Christians in Spain. Here's the kicker. No child was ever reported missing. No body was found. No evidence existed. But evidence wasn't the point. The story was the point. Months of torture broke him. He confessed to impossible crimes. Meetings that never happened. People he'd never met. Magical rituals that existed only in his torturers' minds. On November 16th, 1491, Benito Garcia was burned alive before a cheering crowd. And 4 months later, Queen Isabella signed the Edict of Expulsion, forcing every Jew in Spain to convert or leave. One man's screams became the justification for ethnic cleansing. Think about that. A story, a lie, extracted through pain. And it uprooted 200,000 people who had lived in Spain for 1,000 years. But here's the most terrifying truth. This wasn't the system failing. This was the system working exactly as designed. The real genius of the Inquisition wasn't what happened in the torture chambers. It was what happened at dinner tables. Imagine this. Cordoba, 1485. A father sits with his family. His 8-year-old daughter looks up from her meal and says, "Papa, why does Maria's family light candles on Friday nights, but go to church on Sunday?" Your blood runs cold, because everyone knows. The Inquisition pays children to report suspicious behavior. They call them little informers of the faith. So what do? Do you explain? Do you tell her to stay quiet? Do you confront Maria's family? Any choice could be the wrong choice. And wrong means death. This is how fear metastasizes. It doesn't need to torture everyone, just enough that the rest torture themselves. They called it limpeza de sangre, purity of blood. But what they really created was purity of silence. A nation so afraid to think, so afraid to speak, that it forgot how. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable for us. We like to believe we're different, that we're smarter, stronger, more moral than people in 1490. But are we? When was the last time you stayed silent? Because you were afraid of the consequences? When was the last time you went along with the crowd, instead of standing up for what was right? When was the last time you saw someone attacked, online, at work, in person, and did nothing? Because it wasn't your problem? The Inquisition didn't need everyone to be evil. It only needed most people to be silent. And silence is the most common human response to fear. Don't believe me? Here's a test. Next time someone says something wrong, not an opinion, but factually wrong, speak up, challenge them, feel the discomfort, watch everyone else stare at their phones, or quietly leave. That discomfort is the ghost of the Inquisition. It's the scar tissue left by 500 years of teaching us. That questioning authority is dangerous. Let me paint you one last picture. Madrid, June 30th, 1680. The Plaza Mayor is packed. 80,000 people, more than a football stadium. King Charles II sits in a private viewing box. Nobles fight for the best seats, as if this were opening night at the opera. This is the largest auto da fe in Spanish history. Over 100 prisoners will face judgment today. The procession begins at dawn. First come the reconciled, those who confessed. They wear yellow robes, their shame painted on their clothes. They will only lose property, their lives spared. Then come the others, the relaxed, those who refused to confess, or whose confessions weren't believed. Their robes are painted with flames and demons. 21 men and women burn alive before the day ends. The ceremony lasts 14 hours. Prayers, speeches, condemnations, the slow breaking of human beings. And when it's over, when the smoke clears, a witness writes, "After that day, people spoke more softly, laughed less, trusted no one." That was the real genius of the Inquisition. Not the fire, but the fear. Fear burned into the soul of an entire civilization. So now, the question I leave you with: if the Inquisition rose again, not in Spain, not in the past, but here, now, in your city, how long would you last before fear broke you? Would you stand against injustice? Or would you, like 99% of people in history, keep your head down and survive? Would you risk your job, your family, your life to protect a stranger? Or would you point the finger just to take the heat off yourself? If this video disturbed you, if it made you question human nature, then subscribe. Most history channels won't show you this. They won't ask you to confront the darkness inside yourself. But we will. We don't just tell stories. We hold up mirrors. And sometimes what stares back is ugly, but necessary. The only way to stop history from repeating is to see it clearly. The Inquisition is over, but the capacity for evil that created it is still inside us. Here's the question for you. If fear were staring you in the face, would you stand up or step aside?